With all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian already out, we've seen our fair share of Mandalorian weaponry. However, not all Mando weaponry has appeared on our screens, at least not yet. And with Sabine Ren, one of the most innovative Mandalorians, just making her live action debut, we thought it's high time we made a video exploring every single weapon that has been used by the Mandalorians in both Legends and Canon. From blasters to beskar, from bombs to blades and everything in between, there are over 30 weapons in this list, starting from the least powerful and ending with the most impressive. However, despite this ranking largely being on the power capabilities of each weapon, we have briefly considered the weapon's history, uniqueness and symbolism and taken that into account. We have also included weapons and details about weapons that only exist in Star Wars Legends, so you don't miss out on a thing. It's also worth remembering that we will discuss plot points from both Canon and Legends, so be prepared for spoilers. Also keep in mind that when it comes to ordering these weapons in terms of power, this is only our opinion. Feel free to tell us how wrong we are in the comments, and also let us know what your favourite Mandalorian weapon is. Be sure to watch the whole video so you get to see the best weapons Mandalore has to offer. Let's get into it. The Mandalorian Flash Pistol. We are starting off with a weapon we know very little about due to its rarity. The predecessor to the blaster pistol and appearing in Star Wars Legends, this incredibly simple single-shot pistol was a quick and cheap makeshift sidearm. Often carried whilst on basilisk droids, flash pistols were commonly secondary weapons to more powerful melee weapons such as swords or axes made of beskar. There is also speculation that this firearm didn't fire a regular blaster bolt. Other kinds of flash pistols in Star Wars created a burst of light that blinded opponents, although this may not be the case for the Mandalorian weapon. The Rally Master Lance. One of the earliest known Mandalorian weapons, the Rally Master Lance belonged to the archaic arsenal of Ordo, which hosted many ancient Mandalorian weapons. The lance was supposedly stolen by crime syndicate leader Dryden Voss and was kept on his yacht, the First Light. As more of a historical and symbolic weapon rather than a usable one, it ranks fairly low on this list. Watch till the end so you don't miss out on the weapons with history and insane power. The Bivrajier. Used mostly for hunting and fishing, a Bivrajier is a traditional spear used by the Mandalorians. Whilst designed for the killing of animals for food, its design made it usable in combat situations. However, it would certainly struggle when compared to most of the coming weapons on this list. In Legends, a clone commando deserter named Skarata used a Bivrajier as a walking stick after he suffered brain injuries whilst on a mission for the Republic, believing it to be a distinguished way for him to carry himself. The DE-10 Blaster Pistol. This is a fairly standard blaster pistol, of which the most common users were Mandalorian Death Watch. Firing blue bolts up to 65 meters away, it was heavily used by the Death Watch on their primary base on the forest moon of Endor during the Galactic Civil War. Its heaviness and specialized barrels made it to be a reliably strong blaster pistol, and the design was stolen by a space scavenger from the base on Endor some time after the Battle of Yavin, and subsequently spread to the rest of the galaxy. The Mandalorian Blaster. These Mandalorian blasters were heavily used during the Mandalorian Wars, a feature of Star Wars Legends. They were known to be very similar to standard blaster pistols, but slightly more powerful given their Mandalorian origin and their skill in weapon craft. Given the galaxy-wide nature of the Mandalorian Wars, this blaster was spread to many planets and became a common black market product. The esteemed Mandalorian Field Marshal Bendak Starkiller's blaster of choice was supposedly a modified version of this pistol. The Range Hunter EE-1. Another Star Wars Legends weapon, the Range Hunter EE-1, as the name would suggest, was a strong choice for long-range combat, and presumably for stealth missions given that it was intended for hunting. Manufactured during the Sith Republic Cold War, these sniper-style blasters were most notably used by the Mandalorians in the war against Zakul, when they took on Sky Troopers on Dar Vanis. The EE-3 Carbine Rifle. Though he customised it, Boba Fett's weapon of choice was this particular blaster, which must mean it has some quality as a base weapon for a bounty hunter of Boba's reputation to customize. This rifle was also commonly used by Imperial stormtroopers, and in Legends was the standard issue blaster for Mandalorian protectors. As seen in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, it fires a 3-round burst at a medium distance. The Mandalorian Blaster Carbine. Utilised by the Mandalorian Guard and Death Watch, this standard carbine was a simple rifle blaster. However, given that it was created and trusted to use by fighters as elite as the Mandalorians, we can assume that it was at the very least above average as blasters come. Compact and chunky, it fired single blasts of blue, yellow or red, apparently depending on the affiliation of the user. The Shakura 5 Light Repeater. Coming from Legends, this standard repeating blaster comes from the Mando's word Shakur, meaning break. Mainly produced during the Galactic Civil War, this weapon was heavily used by Vibro, a Mandalorian chieftain of Clan Award. She would use the weapon until it contained no more ammo, and then would resort to a melee weapon, which is coming up later in this list, so stay tuned for that. The Galar 15 Blaster Carbine. Named after a bird of prey native to Mandalore, this blaster was initially designed for use in the Clone Wars, primarily for the Mandalorian Guard. The design is simple, but quality, especially given that it was made out of good materials, for example its layer of shock-resistant polycarbonate, which reduced recoil and added the capability to shoot at long ranges. Such was the quality of the weapon that it was subsequently used by the Mandalorian Death Watch, Mandalorian Super Commandos, and was even trusted by bounty hunters and assassins such as Carbine at one point. Frequently appearing on the black market at high prices, this blaster is one of the most effective standard blasters in all of Star Wars. The Galar Blaster. The weapon of choice of Sabine Ren, very little is known about this blaster, other than that it is presumably a variation of the Galar 15 blaster, given the similar name. The Westar 35 Blaster Pistol. Commonly used by the Death Watch during the Clone Wars and by various Mandalorians during the Imperial era, this pistol was often dual-wielded by users. Pre-Vizsla, for example, had one in each hand and used them in his duel with Darth Maul when they were competing for leadership of Death Watch. In Legends, officers of the Mandalorian police force on Sundari, the Mandalorian capital city, were issued a Westar 35. The Mandalorian Heavy Blaster. Put to use during the old Sith Wars of Star Wars Legends, the Mandalorian version of a heavy blaster was slightly stronger than its template, exerting more damage when fired. Some Mandalorians even claimed that one shot could incapacitate a starship. However, this was widely dismissed as hyperbole. The infamous but highly skilled bounty hunter Kalo Nord dual-wielded with 2 modified Mandalorian heavy blasters. Mandalorian Assault Rifle. A blaster from Star Wars Legends, this assault rifle was an incredibly strong weapon. The damage and range that it had was disproportionate to its medium size, as it could shoot targets from up to 300 meters away. Canderous Ordo, also known as Mandalore the Preserver, used it frequently during his youth, and it is essentially a very strong assault rifle. Casus Fett's Heavy Blaster Pistol. Unique with its black metal base and wooden handle, in Legends, this heavy-duty blaster pistol was the weapon of choice of the legendary Casus Fett, a Mandalorian Field Marshal and senior officer to Mandalore the Ultimate. Not much is known about this pistol, except for its capabilities to naturally cause heavy damage. However, we can assume that it was a formidable weapon to be chosen by such a decorated military leader such as Casus. Seriously, if you're not familiar with this ancestor to Jango and Boba, look him up, he's awesome. The pistol was also the second strongest blaster once fully upgraded in the game Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. The Mandalorian Heavy Repeater. While this weapon was difficult to aim, it more than made up for this with its immense fire rate, damage output and range. another weapon primarily explored during the Mandalorian Wars, this weapon could cause significant havoc on the front lines of any conflict. This is another weapon used by Mandalore the Preserver. However, he customized it heavily to upgrade almost every aspect of the blaster. This is most certainly a very respectable piece of weaponcraft. The Bestbeth. One of the more versatile weapons on this list, a Bestbeth is actually primarily a musical instrument, being a classical Mandalorian flute. However, in true Mandalorian style, to utilize its beskar material, it was also purposed to be a short-range weapon. One end of the Bestbeth was made to be very sharp and could be used to stab an enemy. Additionally, its hardened material meant it could be used to execute blunt blows. The Mandalorian fighter Wadi Tehai owned one and utilized the Bestbeth as a talented musician. However, there is no record of him using it in combat. However, during the time of the Empire, a member of the band, Boba Fett and the Assassin Droids, struck a rival band's singer unconscious with a Bestbeth. Talk about flute force. The Mandalorian Disintegrator. This disruptor pistol, manufactured by the Mandalorians during the Star Wars Legends Dark Wars, was so powerful that it was against the laws of the Galactic Republic. But naturally, the Mandalorians didn't give a kashik. This very uncommon and pricey weapon was the most deadly disruptor pistol used during the Dark Wars conflict, and could bypass personal energy shields and cause significant damage. One could also modify and upgrade features of this disruptor, such as the targeting scope, firing chamber and power cell, and it had a range of up to 23 meters. Not at all a weapon to be messed with. The Mandalorian Ripper. Very similar to the Disintegrator, the Ripper, despite being classified as a disruptor, fired slugs at good range that could penetrate personal energy shields. Very adaptive and modifiable, this weapon also violated Galactic Republic laws on disruptor weapons, and was a very popular side weapon for Mandalorian senior officers. It just eclipses the Disintegrator because of its slug firing capabilities, meaning the range and versatility of the weapon is slightly better. The Blade of Beginnings. This weapon only ranks as low as it does, mainly due to it possibly not existing in anything but myth. A legendary weapon, the Blade of Beginnings, which is an awesome name by the way, was a fairly average sworded weapon, save from the fact that it had a cloaking device, meaning that the weapon was essentially invisible. In Legends, Boba Fett and Bossk raided a research unit which was trying to establish whether they had obtained the real Blade of Beginnings, and the bounty hunters stole it. However, soon after the mission, it was found to be a fake and rendered valueless. The Mythosol Ax. A classic Mandalorian melee weapon, this large axe is named after the Mythosol, a gigantic creature native to Mandalore. Powerful but heavy to wield, they were capable of dealing out significant damage in the right hands. One such axe was used by Mandalorian chieftain and battle veteran Vibro, who I referred to earlier in this video. In Legends, Mandalore the Indomitable, the warlord of the Mandalorians before the Great Sith War, famously wielded a Mythosol Ax. Jango Fett's Westar 34 blaster pistols. This small blaster was purposed to be extremely effective at close range, firing short but fast and strong blasts at nearby targets. Made out of a Mandalorian alloy and therefore able to fire continually for extended periods of time without overheating, Jango Fett owned a pair of Westar 34s. He customized it to be lighter and therefore quicker to draw out, using them to fight Obi-Wan Kenobi on Kamino. In Legends, following his father's footsteps, a young Boba Fett used a pair of customized Westar 34s. Shockwave Generator. Developed by the ancient Mandalorian Crusaders, this simple shockwave generator would release a powerful sonic wave designed to destroy anything in its path. Basilisk war droids would often possess clusters of shockwave generators, which, when the powers are combined, could create a plasma shot with the capability to penetrate a starship's hull. The atomic compression bomb. Used to cause heavy damage to starships and space stations, atomic compression bombs were a common destructive force during the Great Sith War. Mandalorian Crusaders would use Basilisk war droids to launch them at enemy targets, meaning that they would often land with high accuracy and cause strong damage. These were considered one of the more effective of the ancient Mandalorian weaponry. Cal. A small beskar dagger, the Cal is a hexagonal blade used to cause quick and decisive blows in close combat. Like all beskar, it is strong and sharp and can be used to block lightsaber attacks, although even the most masterful Mandalorian warrior would struggle to with a blade this small. Therefore, it was frequently used as a secondary weapon to the next entry on this list. Used in the offhand, it could be used to execute stealth attacks, or as a part of a combo attacks along with the beskar. The beskar was a beskar short sword, comparable in size and shape to a machete. Constructed for breaking armour, the beskar was capable of dealing quick and frequent blows to enemies. Perhaps its ability to break armour made it a desirable duo along with the Cal, which might provide decisive attacks once an enemy's armour was broken. It's worth noting that in Star Wars Legends, the frequency that the Cal and beskar were used together led to the armour on a Mandalorian's left side being named Cal plates, whilst the plates on their right were known as beskar plates. The design of the beskar was also optimum for close quarters single combat, as the hilt of the sword was equipped with guards for the hand holding the weapon, providing additional defense to the user. In Legends, the Mandalorian soldier, while on vow, seriously wounded a clone commando at the start of the Clone Wars with a beskar, and in Legacy of the Force Invincible, Jaina Solo used a beskar to cut off an arm of her Sith brother Darth Caedus, proving it to be a very powerful tool. The triple-bladed beskar. Legends also speak of a special beskar used by Mandalorian combatant Gaunt Kadera during the Sith Republic Cold War. It was unique in that it had 3 blades, set out like a triangle with a crate dragon shaped pommel, a symbol prized by Mandalorians demonstrating the will to destroy and conquer, and a skull with fangs carved into the crossguards for similar reasons. The Mandalorian Vambrace. While vambraces are technically a range of weapons which are unique depending on the owner, I think it's best to collectivise them as one individual formidable weapon. Vambraces were manufactured by the Mandalorians in response to the immense powers of the Jedi after the Jedi-Mandalorian War, and were specifically designed to counter them and defeat them in combat. Made of beskar and therefore lightsaber proof, each Mandalorian's vambrace was best utilised when adapted to their own fighting style and needs. Worn on the wrists, one vambrace could certainly be enough should the equipment be carefully chosen, but most Mandalorians had one on each wrist. Technologies included in famous Mandalorian vambraces included mini rockets, both normal and concussion, grappling lines, targeting and tracking systems, hologram systems, tranquilizers, shock, explosive or stun darts, flamethrowers, whipcords and whistling birds, famously used by Din in The Mandalorian. Many other instruments could be used, and it's worth adding that of course, despite the vambraces being designed with Jedi in mind, they were extremely applicable in almost all combat situations. As one of their most useful, iconic and distinctively Mandalorian weapons, is one of the key features of the Mandalorian warrior, and one of their most powerful weapons ever. Mandalore the Ultimate's Battle Axe. A version of the Mythosol Ax, according to Legends, this 10kg specialised battle axe was created during the Battle of Serroco during the Mandalorian Wars. When Mandalore the Ultimate captured a Republic command ship named Courageous, the ship was stripped for parts and melted down for materials. But as a symbol of their successful conquest, some of the metal was made to construct Mandalore the Ultimate's battle axe. The axe was made to be absolutely huge, and was then fitted with the material cortices, a material capable of resisting blaster fire and lightsabers. To cap it off, an energy cell was fitted so that the axe could release a powerful electric charge, meaning that the damage that could be done with this axe was around double that of an ordinary Mythosol Ax. When Mandalore the Ultimate attended a negotiations meeting with the former admiral of the destroyed command ship Courageous, he flourished his axe and mocked the admiral by revealing how he had acquired the material to make it. Crush Gaunts. Invented by the Mandalorians, Crush Gaunts, known to the Mandalorians as Shakura, were beskar reinforced gauntlets that allowed the user to significantly increase their strength. Their power made it possible to easily destroy bones, metals, and most objects that could be gripped, whilst also being able to parry and even catch lightsaber attacks. In Legends, the brutality of the Crush Gaunt led to it being made illegal by the Mandalorians, but they have been recalled into use in special circumstances several times, notably by the Death Watch. Indeed, Boba Fett stated that he was in favour of them being brought back given their utility. It has even been suggested that one of Darth Vader's gloves was a Crush Gaunt, given its apparent invulnerability. But this is most likely not true, as surely Vader would have no use for such a weapon. The Mandalorian Executioner Vibro Ax. Forged in the time of Mandalore, the Vibro Ax is an executioner's axe made of beskar, presumably constructed for official executions of inhabitants or enemies of Mandalore and the Mandalorians. The weapon was complete with ultrasonic transmission plates that increase the damage of each blow, and vibration insulation plates that gives the weapon its name. It was utilised by one of the Knights of Ren at Plek as his primary weapon, and was used by him against his former general Ben Solo at the Battle of Exegol. Despite its potential to compete with lightsabers, given its beskar structure, the weapon was left discarded on Exegol when Aplek was killed. The Darksaber. And now, for the most powerful weapon on this list, the Darksaber. You all saw this coming. The Darksaber has a long history, which I won't go into too much detail here, but instead I'm going to look at it as a weapon. Aesthetically, it is of course unique from all lightsabers, given its black colour and sword-like shape. The style of the emitter, pommel and handguard are also exclusive to the Darksaber, as it is the beskar material of these designs, which makes it a more formidable weapon in a defensive capacity. It is slightly shorter than an average lightsaber, but this is not necessarily a disadvantage, as the shape of the sword would not complement a longer size in combat. Remember, size doesn't matter, it's how you use it that's important. The Darksaber contains a crystal which serves as a means to channel force energy, allowing the wielder's thoughts to influence the blade. The Darksaber connects to its user on a subconscious level, and will feel lighter the more the user accepts the connection between soul and blade. The blade is also drawn to lightsabers, as it is often pulled towards them in combat, making it superior for parrying lightsaber blows. While like I said, I won't go into the weapon's vast history and importance, I think it's worth noting for the power and sentience of the weapon that some people believed that if it was acquired in any way that wasn't combat, it would lead to the destruction of Mandalore, which alone demonstrates the intelligence and power of this weapon. It's easily the most powerful and iconic used by the Mandalorians, and I can't wait to see its history added to in the coming Star Wars projects. So, there we have it. What's your favourite Mandalorian weapon? Do you agree with our order? Let us know down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out our new Star Wars Legends timeline series, and make sure to like and subscribe for more.